we can probably all agree on two things. A, the last 5.5 years were crazy, and B, we got absolutely amazing games in that time. So of course it's time to look back on the 25 best JRPGs we got this decade so far. Now, be warned, as you might be surprised to see some games on this list and that some fan favorites are missing. Alright, get yourself comfy and let's get cracking. Ys 10 is the latest entry in the long-running action JRPG series, and it's easily one of the best. Since the 7th entry, we got a bunch of colorful characters to join our party and fight battles alongside 2 characters, which always guaranteed fast-paced action and a lot of fun. Ys 10 changes that, with a party of 2 characters in total, and a slightly heavier feel to the movement and attacks. The result is a refined combat system that is less hack and slash, and relies more on actions like parrying, blocking, dodging, and swapping characters mid-battle. Honestly, as a longtime fan, this felt kind of weird at first, but quickly became one of my favorite parts of the game. Ys 10 also dares to innovate by bringing elaborate ship combat with extensive ship customization to the already addictive gameplay loop, and it just works. Collecting parts and turning your ship into a brutal machine is simply a joy, and it was impossible for me to not do everything there is to do. The combat, ship battles, and the exploration in general create an unresistible gameplay loop that manages to suck me in easily. If this is how the series evolves, I'm all here for it. The Mana series had a difficult time for a while, but thanks to Visions of Mana, this is definitely over because this brought back the strength of the past. The story is a light-hearted adventure about friendship, the value of tradition, and the importance of nature. And it comes with some really surprising and emotional twists. The characters are quirky, lovable, and have an undeniably charming dynamic. The world is colorful and feels so much like a modern version of a classic JRPG world from the 90s. Because you go from town to town, explore the world, find secrets and hidden items, that kind of stuff. Then there's the incredibly dynamic combat system that I just couldn't get enough of. You get 3 characters to swap between mid-battle, flashy skills to destroy the enemies, you knock them in the air, jump, knock them back down, dodge, block, use ultimate skills. It's insane, but most importantly, fun. Just like Ys, the gameplay loop is addictive, and it's hard not to be charmed by its world, characters and story. Again, if this is where the series is headed, and I can't wait for the next game. This game is special to me because it was the first game I've ever gotten a review code for, which is what I always wanted. And I was more than happy to find out that 8-Bit Adventures 2 is also a brilliant game. 8-Bit Adventures 2 is basically a modern JRPG with the looks of a game from the NES. It's definitely amongst the most overlooked RPGs of the 2020s, and there are so many reasons why you should check this out. It tells an engaging and heartwarming story that doesn't shy away from being very meta and also surprisingly emotional, providing some of the most memorable scenes I've seen in a JRPG recently. The fantastic writing and charming characters suck you into this vast fantasy world packed with brilliantly designed dungeons that are so much more than the standard corridor dungeons of some other RPGs. And then there is this great straightforward combat system inspired by Final Fantasy X and Dragon Quest that offers a good challenge and requires you to plan ahead your moves. All that, combined with some clever modern features like the possibility to save everywhere, no random encounters and so much more, creates a fantastic RPG. If you're looking for a nostalgic JRPG experience without the frustration of older games, you have to try 8-Bit Adventures 2. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot not only is the best Dragon Ball game of the last 10 years, it also happens to be an absolutely fantastic JRPG. No other game in the franchise told the story of the anime in a better, more detailed way ever before. That way, it almost feels like you're watching the anime with some of the most emotional and epic scenes this iconic anime has to offer. I mean, that's really cool on its own, but it also makes the story-related combat far more intense and impactful. It's like no other game in this franchise managed to make me care about the characters so much. Almost as much as you care for this cute subscribe button because you're enjoying this video so much. Yeah, that was smooth. Anyway, Combat itself is a slightly simpler version of what we know from the Tenkaichi games, but with all the spectacle we know and love. It's super approachable, epic, and extremely fun. I also fell in love with this game because for the first time I felt like I could actually explore the world of a universe I've been wanting to explore since I watched the first episode of Dragon Ball on television. There are resources to collect and optional content to find, side stories to do. It's a simple yet satisfying exploration that made me want to live in this world even more. Look, this might not seem like a JRPG at first glance, but it is, and it was one of the most fun I had with this genre in the last 5 years. So if you love Dragon Ball, you have to give this one a chance. After the absolute disaster that was Star Ocean 5 Integrity and Faithlessness, I basically lost hope for my second favorite series of all time. Luckily, the Divine Force came around, and while it isn't the most polished game on earth, I had a great time with it. That's mostly because this game didn't try to be something it's not. The story is simple, yet exciting enough to make me always want to know what's about to happen next. The cast of characters might be tropey, but it's also charming and I definitely cared for them. Where the Divine Force truly shines though are exploration and combat. The former works incredibly well thanks to the Duma, a device that lets you boost in any direction and then glide for a while. That creates a wonderful feeling of freedom, and since the world is packed with items to find, it's a joy to get into every corner of the planet. The latter is a fresh new take on the combat system of the series, with a clear focus on chaining flashy skills into a long and deadly combo. It's one of those combat systems that's just so fun that you actually do every single encounter. At least I did, I never skipped a fight. Look, I know for a lot of people this game left much to be desired, but I think if you embrace the things that this game offers, you'll have a great time. I certainly had, and I think it's one of the most underrated and underappreciated games of the decade. While Final Fantasy XVI might be light on the RPG aspects, it's still an RPG and one I enjoyed a lot. The story has never been so dark in the series before, and I was mesmerized by the atmosphere full of despair and loss. This was a bold decision, yes, but it also made me care about the characters so much. Seeing Clive's brother die in the first couple of hours created the feeling that everything can happen here. This game, this story, does not shy away from being mature and leave emotional scars on its players. I just loved that. I also love the actual combat. Not only is it the most stylish Final Fantasy has ever been, but it also requires reflexes and quick thinking. It's just so much fun. Needless to say, the Icon boss battles are among the most epic things I've ever witnessed in any video game, which of course is hugely thanks to the incredible music. I also think that Final Fantasy XVI has one of the most interesting worlds in the series, thanks to a fantastic world building. And yes, while this entry was a bit light on the RPG element, and I also wished for a bit more role-playing here and there, it also allowed the game to keep players focused on the story without spending much time in menus. I know this game isn't perfect, but let's just say I started a second playthrough immediately just to get a Platinum trophy. That's how much I enjoyed this game. Sea of Stars managed to do something rare. It has kept its promise. The promise that it would find the balance between inspiration and nostalgia and being modern and unique. The result is a fantastic JRPG experience. While the story doesn't win awards for the plot itself, it had some insanely cool moments. It surprised me, got me super emotional, and it blew my mind over and over again with unexpected twists and moments. What I love the most about this game though is its insane level design. All the areas and dungeons are designed so well because there are tons of things to interact with it, so it's not just running through a boring corridor. There are secrets to find, puzzles to solve, and the verticality makes jumping and climbing around a lot of fun. This certainly reminded me of games from the 90s and early 2000s where dungeons were full of puzzles and secrets. I love this approach to level design so much, as it's a welcome change between battles. Combat with its stun button presses may not be new to the genre, but enemy variety, swappable characters, and the many unique abilities kept the combat system immensely fun the whole time. Sea of Stars is simply amazing, and it holds a very special place in my heart. I know this might actually be a controversial pick, but I think Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is such a fun and underappreciated game. I mean, I kind of understand. Is it a very good Souls-like? No, maybe not. Is it a well-told remake of the first Final Fantasy? You know, maybe not, because it's so dumb at times. But if you don't treat it as either one of those, and view this thing as a straightforward action game with some Final Fantasy sprinkled in it, then I'm pretty sure you have a great time. The main reason for that is the combat and class system. Combat feels quite similar to Souls-likes, especially Neo, so it's quite fast, responsive, and comes with a lot of cool mechanics. For combat, you can use 2 of the 28 jobs and swap between them. That way, you have hundreds of possible combinations and find what suits your playstyle. Most jobs feel very distinct thanks to a great amount of skills and unique abilities. Bosses are insanely well designed and mostly offer a great challenge. Yes, some of the dialogue may be stupid, but once you embrace the stupidity and manage to look past the storytelling itself, you probably enjoy the presentation. I mean, I did, and I had a fantastic time playing it, far more than I even expected. If you're a fan of action JRPGs, Souls-like, and a good job system, you should give Stranger of Paradise a chance. I, for one, really hope we get a sequel someday. If there's one game on this list that deserves the title addictive, then it's Unicorn Overlord. Yes, I was completely addicted to it, and there are so many reasons for that. First and foremost, the gameplay. In this strategy RPG, you have to bring 10 units of up to 5 characters each into battle and defeat the enemies. I know, sounds simple, but doing side quests to recruit more unique characters and create synergies between them for the maximum amount of power is immensely fun. While the actual fight between 2 units works automatically, it is your party composition, equipment and skill set that determines if you win or lose. On top of that, you need to strategize your units on the battlefield, make use of their unique abilities, take care of the effects of the environment, and so much more. And the feeling when you destroy all enemy units in no time because you spend a lot of time perfecting all of that is just the best feeling ever. Another reason I was so addicted is that there's simply so much stuff to do, and personally, I couldn't stop liberating all villages, doing all the side quests and arena fights. It was just so much fun. The overarching story itself won't win any awards, but the 5 arcs all have their interesting and engaging moments. Honestly, if this is how much fun strategy RPGs can be, I really need to get into the genre, because Unicorn Overlord most certainly is one of the most fun I had with a game this decade. It almost feels unreal to have 2 Star Ocean games on this list, but what can I say? Square Enix finally did it. Star Ocean's second story R is a perfect remake. Combat got a lot of improvements and finally feels snappy, responsive, and actually offers some depth. You can swap between characters and control them. You can block, use flashy skills, and even summon support characters. This game has it all. It's one of those rare cases where I got addicted to the combat system immediately. Of course, the story and characters are still iconic and shine thanks to the brilliant voice acting performances that breathe life into this. The world itself is absolutely gorgeous because of the wonderful blend of 3D environments and 2D pixel characters. This and the mix of futuristic and medieval elements create one of the most unique settings in gaming that sucked me in so much that I just didn't want to leave. It has this undeniable charm that makes this one of the most memorable JRPGs I've ever played. I said it once and I'll say it again. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin is like Pokemon, only way better. It has better graphics, a more engaging story, and a turn-based combat system with far more depth. The story is about your self-created rider who gets their hands on a mysterious and potentially evil monster egg. While the story is lighthearted for the most part, it also touches on themes like prejudices, animal exploitation, and the importance of nature. I was totally surprised by how engaging the story actually is, and I absolutely fell in love with it. The bread and butter of games like these is the monster catching, which is done by stealing monster eggs from a monster den. You then take care of the egg until a cute little monster hatches and joins your party. The combat relies on a rock paper scissors system, which is easy to learn and really satisfying to master. Swapping out monsters to react to dangerous situations or maximize damage requires a good strategy, and the fact that some of the mechanics in the main series made it into the spin-off is just a cherry on top. This game definitely got the gameplay right, and it's easily one of the most overlooked JRPGs ever. I love it very much, and I can't wait for the third entry to come out. I've been a long-time fan of the Tates series, but games like Xillia, Zestiria and Mysaria just didn't do it for me. Tates of Arise took the series in a whole different direction, and that was the best thing that could happen. This feels the most mature the series has ever been because the story is full of emotionally impactful moments, and just the premise alone with Shion who can't be touched is heartbreaking. The group dynamic is simply one of the best I've seen in a video game ever, which made me care about the characters so much. The combat system is a fantastic evolution of the linear motion combat system that actually is one of the most dynamic and snappy combat systems in any JRPG to date. Skills are flashy, combos extensive, and swapping between characters, bringing them in for a boost attack or knocking enemies into the air just feels absolutely amazing throughout the whole game. Honestly, this game has everything. A great cast of characters, captivating story, and a brilliant combat system. It's simply one of the best JRPGs of the last 5 years. Okay, remember what I said about Unicorn Overlord being the most worthy of the title addictive? Yeah, well, SMT5 Vengeance is worthy too. Collecting and fusing demons was never more fun than here, because first of all, there are countless demons to find and fusions to discover. And second of all, the press turn combat is as approachable as it can get, making this one of the best turn-based combat in any JRPG. Finding the best combination of demons never gets old, especially since the designs are so creative and fun to look at. SMT5 Vengeance also has one of the most dark settings in any game, because right in the beginning, the world basically ends, which ultimately leads to the demon thing. But only because everything is ruined now, doesn't mean that there aren't countless things to find. For the first time in the series, areas are more open and filled with secrets and items to find. It's so fun to explore, it's basically an addiction on its own. SMT5 puts a heavy focus on gameplay, and that's its main strength. Without a doubt, this is one of the most unique JRPGs I've ever played, and since the Vengeance version adds a second story part, this is a game that keeps you busy for a long time. We all love and play JRPGs for the story, right? The first Xenobay Chronicles definitely has one of the best stories ever told in a video game. And that's why this just had to be on this list. It's one of those stories that builds up with so much tension up to a point where you wouldn't want to put down the controller. I just had to know what happens next. You know, there are some truly epic moments in this, full of emotion and drama, but the ending has the most surprising plot twist I've ever experienced. I was blown away, and right at the end, I simply fell in love with this game all over again, even though I already spent 90 hours loving this masterpiece. Then there's the unique setting, where everything takes place on these two giants. These open areas manage to make you feel so small while exploring. There are enormous landmarks to discover that always remind you of the unimaginable scale. The different distinct locations are some of the most memorable in any game. It's all just breathtaking. Playing Xenobay Chronicles for the first time made me feel like I'm playing something truly special. And even after over 5 years, I can't stop thinking about this. It's epic. Okay, so I just recently got into the Persona series, and Persona 3 Reload was the first game that I played, and man oh man, what a blast I had. This was also the first time I played a game with social elements like this, which was easily the best part about this game. The characters of Persona 3 won my heart instantly, because the dialogues are written so well and everyone has their own complex and likable personality. They made me care about the fate of each character and got me even more invested in the fantastic story. Seriously, the story was super exciting and the twists and turns really surprised me. Well, I personally wish for a tighter pacing so that the emotional weight of some events would be more meaningful. The space between the big plot points are filled with these great character interactions, which is a design choice I totally respect. overall, I'm sure that this is a story I will remember for quite some time. What got me really addicted though is the turn-based combat that, even after 60 hours, never got boring because fusing and collecting demons adds so much depth and strategy. And the graphics, presentation and aesthetics simply blew me away. Somehow I can't get this game out of my head and I'm tempted to play this again when it releases on Switch too. After playing this, I couldn't wait to play more games in the series. Which brings me to Persona 5 Royal. I mean, I don't know if this is cheating because this came out in 2019 in Japan already and only the West got it in early 2020, but you know, it's my list, so who cares. Persona 5 Royal is the result of a series that constantly evolved, and yes, it's one of the best JRPGs ever made. The cast is absolutely phenomenal, as it contains characters with complex and authentic personalities, great personal stories, and a group dynamic that almost makes you feel like you're part of this group. Outside the group of the Phantom Thieves, there are a bunch of interesting characters to have social links with. It's genuinely fun to spend time with them, as A, their stories are great, and B, leveling up the social links is actually useful for the gameplay. It's also connected with the story itself, which is just brilliant game design. Then there are these wonderful palaces that are an absolute joy to explore, the addicting mementos, and a killer soundtrack. I mean, I prefer the OST of 3 Reload, but this one is just as good. I could go on and tell you great things about Persona 5 Royal, but I just say, play it. It's really as good as people say it is. This is how you do a prequel story. I mean, what's left to say about this game that hasn't already been said, right? All the questions that the OG FF7 raised about Zack have been answered in this game. Not only is the story of Zack incredibly exciting, but also really tragic and so sad that it brought many to tears. And not just because of its infamous ending. For me, the relationship with Aerith was heartbreaking because they both knew they wanted to be together, be a couple, but Zack's fate didn't let them. And the chemistry between Aerith and Zack makes it even more sad to watch these two lovers never get the relationship they wanted. Of course, there's more than just a love story. Themes like betrayal, freedom, and what it means to be human definitely makes this one of the most mature stories in the genre. But it's not all story and characters, there's also a fantastic combat system that got the perfect overhaul with the remake. It feels very much like a modernized version of a PS2 era combat system, and it's an absolute joy. The material system once again provides great customization and total freedom of how you approach combat. The remake makes combat feel super responsive, snappy, satisfying, and most importantly, I thought it offered a great challenge, which made encounters even more exciting. Crisis Core is a very special gaming experience, especially if you're a big fan of the OG FF7. And even if you're not, I highly recommend this game. It's so incredible. Scarlet Nexus, one of the most underrated and underappreciated games of the last 10 years. In Scarlet Nexus, you can choose between two protagonists, which isn't just a nice gimmick. Yuito and Kazuna experience very different events and travel with their own group of characters, which results in vastly different story and combat experiences. Scarlet Nexus actually has one of the coolest action combat systems ever because it's incredibly deep and complex but never overwhelming. You can throw objects at enemies with psychokinesis, summon characters for a special attack that is required for certain combat situations, perform combo attacks with other characters, and a lot more. The result is a deeply satisfying, addictive, and immensely fun combat system that I just couldn't get enough of. On top of that, there are even simplified social elements, so you can hang out with NPCs, get rewards, and get to know more of the beautiful cyberpunk world. The story is a simple one, but actually told in an engaging and surprisingly emotional way that definitely kept me interested the whole time. I love this game so much, and I will keep mentioning it on this channel and everywhere else. It's an action RPG masterpiece. What is it? The 4th Final Fantasy game on this list? Yeah, but come on, we all knew this was going to happen. Final Fantasy VII Remake is the game I wanted since the PS2 came out, and I'm glad it took so long because this is mind-blowing. Final Fantasy VII always had my favorite cast of characters, and Remake fleshed out their personalities, backstories, and group dynamic in a way I never dared of dreaming. It's just perfect. just like the combat system that is the most beautiful blend of action and turn-based that I could possibly imagine. Every character feels distinct, every boss fight is epic, every skill flashy. I couldn't believe my eyes when I first played it. It's also unbelievable how Square Enix managed to flesh out Midgar, making this one of the most authentic and lively worlds in gaming. I think it's also worth mentioning that I definitely love the changes to the story, and I think it's a brilliant move giving us the story set in an alternative universe. It creates an anticipation for the trilogy that probably wouldn't have been that strong if the story would have been exactly the same. I love this game for everything it is, and for all the emotions it made me feel, and as soon as the release of the third entry is near, I will replay this. It's just incredible. I know I talk about chain echoes a lot, but for a good reason. This indie JRPG was developed by one person, which blew my mind when I heard this, because damn, this game is awesome. A big reason for that is the fantastic story. While this already starts with an interesting setup and some thrilling action, I was not prepared for what was to come. The story is exciting, emotional, engaging, and takes a couple of unexpected twists that I really didn't see coming. At the same time, the characters are highly likable and the world is full of interesting, beautiful places and deep lore to discover. The turn-based combat system is actually unique for a change, as actions move you back and forth on a gauge that determines how much damage you deal and take. It's simple in concept, but requires a good strategy, and since you can have 4 characters in combat that get 1 character each that they can swap with, this combat system just never gets old. Later on, you can even get in a mech and fight huge monsters. Then there's the addictive reward board, tons of secrets to discover, a masterpiece of a soundtrack composed by Eddie Mariano Crew, and beautiful pixel art. This game is an unbelievable JRPG, a love letter to gaming in general, and just one of my favorite games of all time. I played both Xenobay Chronicles Definitive Edition and Xenobay Chronicles 2 before playing 3, and while I loved the story in both the first and second game, I was not prepared for this. Wow, Xenobay Chronicles 3 is a masterpiece, both in storytelling and writing great characters. But first things first, the whole premise of the story sucked me in completely within the first hour. It's about 2 rival nations and their never-ending war against each other. Thing is, everyone only has a maximum of 10 years to live. What follows is a story with unexpected twists and moments so emotional that it's actually hard not to cry like a baby. It's one of my favorite stories ever. That's also because of the cast of characters that not only have complex and well-written personalities, but also an undeniably heartwarming chemistry. While in the beginning character interactions are still dominated by hate for the enemy nation, these interactions evolve into something so beautiful. That is easily my favorite thing about this game, and I would even go as far as to say that the cast of Xenobay Chronicles 3 is in the top 5 best cast of characters ever in any video game. But of course the combat is brilliant too, as it finds the perfect balance of the basics established in the first game and the complexity of the second, while bringing cool new mechanics to the table. The class system is simple on paper, but effectively makes the combat itself addictive, highly customizable, and immensely fun. The result is a game that learned so much from its very good predecessors, and for me personally, made everything even better. Xenobay Chronicles 3 is a masterpiece, period. It had to be on this list. I mean, come on, if you watched any of my videos, it wasn't hard to predict CrossCode being very high on this list. I just love this game so much for so many reasons. The story is surprisingly captivating and the pacing is so good that I couldn't stop playing because I always wanted to know what happens next. Uncovering the mystery behind Leia, her being unable to talk, the fictional world of Crossworlds, and some of the characters is embedded in brilliant storytelling. There are so many emotional and heartbreaking moments, so many epic things happening, that it's hard not to fall in love with CrossCode's story. Underneath the story, the game discusses themes like identity, what it means to be human, and what's the purpose of life, which all makes the overall story even more engaging. But that's also because of the wonderful cast of characters with unique and charming personalities. The action combat system is simply brilliant. The fast-paced battles require both precision and strategy, as basically every enemy has a unique mechanic. Switching between the elemental powers while performing insane-looking special attacks makes combat feel super dynamic. Especially boss fights are out of this world. They basically are puzzles in themselves, which is fun to figure out and satisfying to beat. And speaking of puzzles, this is my favorite part in this game. CrossCode is filled with incredibly well-designed puzzles that push you to the limit when it comes to being creative and being precise and fast. They can get extremely challenging, but solving them made me feel so smart it's almost ridiculous. CrossCode is a masterpiece, and it's one of the best games I've ever played. Metaphor ReFantazio checked all the boxes for me, and I completely fell in love with this game. What I love the most about Metaphor is that it actually has a really unique world, both in regards to the aesthetic and the atmosphere. The whole world building with all the creatures and different tribes are so interesting and create a universe that I just want to see more of. And I'm really impressed how well Atlus managed to display racism and discrimination. They didn't just use it for one character's backstory or a handful of situations. No, they leaned in hard and showed that racism is omnipresent. We don't see stuff like that very often. The thing that really made me addicted to Metaphor is the gameplay though. The blend of real-time and turn-based combat proved to be a brilliant mix, as it killed all the potential frustration I could have had with it. Being able to hack and slash through weak enemies while still earning a relevant amount of XP made grinding so incredibly rewarding and fun. And usually I rarely grind, but this game made me do it and I loved it. Making new friends and getting new archetypes, which are basically classes, is an addiction on its own, because that way the social aspects and combat gameplay are connected with each other, much more so than, let's say, Persona 3. For me, the story actually feels more like an anime, with different arcs in the beginning, and it gets wild later on. I mean, the payoff is crazy. There are some moments in this game that knocked my socks off. All this created an incredible experience for me, and I just couldn't put down the controller. This JRPG is simply one of the best games I've ever played. While all the games on this list are really great, Clear Obscure Expedition 33 is something special. The story about this journey full of despair and hope at the same time is told beautifully, with memorable and epic moments that almost make this feel like a movie. The twists the story had to offer absolutely caught me off guard and left me staring at the screen mouth wide open, while being fully invested in the narrative and characters. This cast of characters has quickly become one of my favorites in recent memories, as everyone has a complex and authentic personality, while the group dynamic feels believable, especially in the context of the story and gritty world. And then there's this turn-based combat system, which is just unbelievably well crafted and fun. The interactive elements like timed attacks, dodges, parries, and free aim, combined with the simple yet deep motivating Lumina system, create the most engaging turn-based combat I've ever had the pleasure of playing. It just never got boring, and just like with Metaphor ReFantazio, I simply couldn't stop grinding because I just had a blast. Then there's the amazing soundtrack, the insane performances of the voice actors, and the emotional performances of the motion capture actors that create a game that oftentimes feels more like a film than a game. Clear Obscure Expedition 33 is a miracle, especially considering the small team and budget, and I still can't believe that this exists. This, my friends, this is art, and everyone who played and loved it knows that. If you haven't, just play it, I'm serious. You don't need to be an RPG fan or whatever, you just need to be human with emotions. If that's the case, I'm sure you enjoy this masterpiece. It's one of the best games ever made. I still can't believe that we actually got this game. Especially after the credits roll, I was just blown away. I know Final Fantasy VII Rebirth isn't perfect by any means, but everything it did right, I think it did exceptionally well. The well-known story of the original was expanded and added so much more depth and epic moments that the story got even more engaging than it was before. I think this works so well because Remake set up all kinds of possibilities with its unexpected changes to the original. So for Rebirth, There was this anticipation of what surprising twists might await me, and a feeling of coming home to a world I love to be in since 1997. The result is a story I feel familiar with for the most part, but with moments staged so incredibly well thanks to the amazing voice cast and actors. I was on the edge of my seat, I laughed a lot, and I cried like a baby. Yeah, that's what the story did to me. But the story is nothing without its characters, and man, the cast of Final Fantasy VII was always my favorite in gaming, but Remake and Rebirth just knocked it out of the park. Their highly likable personalities and engaging backstories embedded in brilliantly written dialogue made these characters feel so real and authentic. All the personal stories like Barrett's and Red 13's are fantastic stories on their own, and the way that they were portrayed here was simply amazing. Then there's this absolutely brilliant combat system that feels so good that it was impossible for me to put down the controller. Especially some of the boss fights and their spectacle are so great that I'm sure I will remember them for a very long time. I love the simple yet rewarding exploration in this game. I enjoyed the heck out of the side quests, and yes, I even fell in love with the minigames. Not all of them, and I also wasn't a big fan of me being forced to play multiple minigames in Costa del Sol, but that was just like 1 hour of my roughly 95-hour playthrough, so I can live with that. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is an outstanding game, and every time I think about it, I want to go back and replay it. I know it's not for everyone, but for me, this is the best JRPG of the decade. Alright, these are my picks for the 25 best JRPGs of the decade so far. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video and let me know your thoughts on this video and what your favorite JRPGs of the 2020s are so far. Alright, thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.